Hello, everybody. It's Jeff Eichen here, and we are live. And I will hide my incredible show there and bring us into the party. So, happy Drug Policy Day. So, today is a day that we are going to be talking about the MORE Act. And what is the MORE Act? Let's see if we can find the MORE Act. I closed all my tabs, so let's get the MORE Act here. The MORE Act. Okay, while we wait for people to come in, we are going to see that the MORE Act is, okay, we're going to talk about the MORE Act in a second. So we got Tony coming in here. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We are going to put our special camera on here. There we go. We got Free the Prisoners, Free the Plant, and Free the Planet. It's Jeff Eichen with Weeds Day today. We've got people populating the room. Who knows how many people will come and how many bowls we're going to have, but we're going to have a Super Bowl on 420, and we're going to tell you about our golf tournament. We're going to tell you about our new guests and the industrial aspects of things. But today we want to talk about the MORE Act. We want to talk about the LESS Act, and, Les Schwab changes tires. We got to change paradigm here. And so it's Jeff Eichen here with Weeds Day. And I am going to wait a couple of seconds here before I run our intro and go back and see how we're doing on our live stream here on StreamYard. StreamYard's looking good. When it's got the infinity mirror there, that means that it's seeing everything. So the MORE Act is really important for us to end prohibition. And we have a few people in the Senate and in the House that are actively on our team, on our side, and they want to end this all because, for gosh sakes, it's the war on people, not the war on drugs, anymore. And it's too long. So, the inappropriate laws that were stated and started back in the 30s, 1937, I think, beautiful Harry Anslinger thought that it was a great thing to do. And William Randolph Hearst thought, well, we shouldn't make hemp anymore, And we've got Tony on today. How's it going, Tony? Are you with us? You can unmute yourself if you can hear me. Let's see if we can get Tony on here before we do our... So Tony might have stepped away, everybody, but for me, I'm going to ask you to stay in the party here, stay in the zone, and you can, let's see, not allowed to unmute myself. Let's see, ask to unmute. Give a try again, Tony, or go out and come back in. That's possibly the best way. So Tony's going to come back in, and we're blessed today to have a few people on our team coming in. See if Tony can come in and give us some chat up here. So real blessed. Tony's audio is connecting now. We see that. And yay.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure we can. Yeah. So here we go, everybody. Just like Tony having a voice there when he didn't, everybody, it's time to reboot the system of cannabis being illegal. What the F? What the heck? I always say 3, 2, 1. That's weed is our new peace sign, and do it frontwards, not backwards, and peace and F Schedule 1. So we got to get the Schedule 1 off at least, and then we got to go totally haywire and go into the Supreme Court and do just like gay marriage did. Get gay marriage legalized again, or period. I mean, come on. Alcohol's legal. Let's get marijuana legal. And I'm sorry, Tommy, but it's kind of a habit. So we're going to keep using the word cannabis as much as we can, because Tommy Chong has instructed us all to start using the word cannabis. That'll cloak ourselves in, when we're in court, when we're talking to the people that don't know. Marijuana is a little slang, and we're totally happy to have Tony on board today. How's it going, Tony?
Going well. Just in the middle of harvest, going through a lot of material. Busy time of year.
Well, great. I'm gonna text one person here. I'm gonna text my co-host JJ and see if JJ's coming on. Let's see if JJ will come on, everybody. And how's technology working for everybody? I heard everything went into retrograde this week, Mercury, and so it's kind of amazing. I even have a blank messaging unit right now. So let's see. So Leslie Stone says, "Hi, Jeff. I'm going to be in Seattle there overnight. Would love to see you while I'm there. Call me." So Leslie Stone is coming to Seattle. She's all the way from LA. And let's see. Let me give JJ a call. She's my beautiful assistant and co-producer of the Global Peace Day that we're doing. We're doing World 420 Day and Super Bowl for 420. And so let's see if we can get JJ. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, everybody, and a beautiful day to talk about the MORE Act and what we're doing in the industrial state. So we're on now. Okay. So JJ will come in if she does, and we'll stick with Tony. But in the meantime, I'm going to share my screen, Tony, with you. Can you see my screen? Tony, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to share my screen with you all here, and I'm going to run our, let's see, QuickTime. I'm going to run our intro here, everybody, and you're going to really have a great intro here. And here we go. See if I can get it here. Come on, baby. Here we go. She's a coming around the mountain when she comes. How's everybody doing today on Weeds Day? It's a Wednesday. It's time to level the playing field and bring everybody home. And here's our intro, everybody, for today. And then we're trying to get France in the house. They were going to come on today, but they're not here yet. And then we'll play their video. We played Smoka Jane's video last week, but here's our beginning, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. As some of you know, I'm Jeff Eichen from Lifers Madness, the movie, with Tommy Chong. We are beginning our first stages of organizing the very first World 420 Day on Weeds Day, every fourth Weeds Day. Don't forget, hemp, hemp, hooray. So Tony, look, check it out. There's your field with my drone. Isn't that awesome? So everybody, Tony today is there at that field. Enjoy our episode today. It's actually episode 72. Amazing 72 episodes. I'm your host, Jeff Eichen, human rights advocate and social activist fighting for government deregulation of weed and the release of all nonviolent criminals incarcerated for possession of marijuana, moving violations, parking tickets, IRS debt, etc. Here on Weeds Day, we keep the public informed about all things weed related, including festivals and legislation surrounding regulating the growth of hemp.
Talking about a war on drugs that was basically a war on humanity. And what it did basically is it took human beings that could have been productive, and it threw them into prisons basically all over the country. California being the worst example of this for non-violent drug-related offenses, and just wasted human beings, and at an astronomical cost to states around the country. I think that the Oregon law, that they just passed, is absolutely brilliant in the sense that they're capitalizing right now on the massive tax revenue from their organic and potent weed sales that comes out of Oregon. They sell it all over the world. They sell it all around the United States. And they have such a massive surplus right now, despite their recession, that they're able to fund not only drug rehab programs, they're able to provide housing for the homeless, construction built, and to provide job training. So it's a long time coming that drugs, non-violent drug offenses, are no longer going to tie up the criminal justice system and let human beings rot away when, drug rehab and more humanitarian ways of dealing with the problem is the way to go.
Might this be a model for the rest of the nation?
100%. It will be a model for the rest of the nation. I mean, it's going to be slow in some of the states where they toss your life away for, any drug-related offense. But I think it's the beginning of a trend that's going to sweep across the country eventually.
Welcome everybody to WEEDSDAYS. Jeff Eichen. We've got Tony in the house. We're going to come back from our share screen there. And Tony, how's it going today?
Oh, just busy. Going through harvest right now. On my lunch break. So unfortunately, I won't have that much time with you here today. But I'm very, very proud and excited that you invited me on. Thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, fantastic! Did you see the drone shot of your field that I made?
Certainly, yeah, that's really cool. Yeah. It's a really being able to work on that project with Larry Serban from Hemp Traders and Tom Pyers and Mike McGuire from Western Fiber. It was a real privilege and honor this year.
Tell us a little bit. Tell the audience about your project. Tell us the nuts and bolts of the why, the how, and the fruit of your labors.
Well, so for some background on myself, I've been involved in, I would say, the movement for hemp and cannabis really in the past 6 years. So 6 years ago, I found out about hemp research being legal and went back to my alma mater where I had graduated a year or so prior with my bachelor's degree in agricultural or plant science, which was Cal Poly Pomona, and approached my professors there about, hey, can I do a research project for a master's degree, a hemp variety trial? And they were into it. We went through all these steps to try and get a import permit from the DEA. Back in 2015, they were into it. And we went through all these DEA to try and get, which was, it was a ridiculous, crazy, drawn out process that ultimately didn't work for different reasons. And I found other ways to work on hemp in the state, and it's kind of like a longer story, but we planted some of the first hemp in California in 2017 and 2018. In 2019, there were tens of millions of feminized hemp seed produced under MOUs from breeders working with our research and pilot project or program with the World Cannabis Foundation. And then, also in 2019, we saw the full commercial legalization of hemp and in California with, rollout of permits and all that. But all throughout that time, everything was all mono-focused on CBD. Everyone was, thought they were going to make millions and millions of dollars on on CBD. And my original, trial that I was intending to do as a grad student, which was grain and fiber variety trials, I didn't get to do that at that time.
Sure.
So this year I worked with hemp traders and with Western Fiber, and we, finally did it. We got some test plots in the ground. We had some fiber plantings, which you took a drone video of. Those are Chinese land races. Those grew spectacularly well, performed very, very well. And then the other side of the road, we had some grain variety plots, which were primarily European and Canadian grain varieties, which did not perform as well, unfortunately.
So we're learning as we go. Which seeds are the proper ones, or they yield the best yield. Are you able to get the same seeds again that produce the 30 footers?
Absolutely, yes. And we're looking forward. So the main thing with hemp genetics that we found is that as we know, the plant is a short day plant. So it initiates flowering in the later part of summer all the way until fall, like when it starts to see days are getting shorter. So if you have varieties, which most of the varieties that were bred for industrial hemp type production that come from a higher latitude, which would be most anything from Europe and Canada, when you take them to a lower latitude, they don't see the long days that they're used to, and they flower very quickly. So that's what we saw with the European varieties. We planted them, and within a couple of weeks of them germinating, they started initiating flowering. So we ended up with plants that were only 2.5 feet tall at most, maybe 3 feet tall, and that kind of limits yields here. The Chinese varieties, on the other hand, came from a lower latitude, some of the more southern parts of China. So they were able to grow all throughout the summer. The first plots there, like the largest plots, the tallest plants there, were planted in the first week of March. And when that field day happened, and you came out, and we had 100 people or so out there for a field day. That was the end of July. We had some 18-foot tall plants, and after another month or so, they got up to like 20 feet. There's some 24-foot tall plants there, and the oldest stand, which I mentioned was planted in March, is still up, and those plants are now probably in the fourth week of flowering or so.
Mm-hmm.
So they probably finished all of their vertical growth, and at sometime in November.
Now, does flowering change their potency for legal?
Flowering is definitely when all the cannabinoids start to get produced.
Right.
So that's when you can start to see significant amounts of cannabinoids get produced. Now, most fiber varieties have just as a result of them being bred and selected, will only produce between 1% and 3% total cannabinoids. And how much of that cannabinoid is CBD or THC is the result of, chemometric testing and selective breeding and all of that.
And when you're processing it, is there a governance that comes in and checks your potency?
When you're processing it?
Well, okay. So for example, my question was, as it flowers, does it take it out of the 0.03 into to 0.1 or something? Do you have to get it at a certain time before it flowers so it doesn't?
So the state law here in California,
there you go,
is testing. The testing requirements are 30 days prior to your harvest date.
Okay.
So if you're harvesting purely for fiber, it's almost like you know you're gonna pass, because 30 days prior to harvest, you're still well into vegetative growth. Most people harvesting just for fiber will harvest before flowering, before the plant has initiated any cannabinoid development.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how it works for CBD type varieties, most of the varieties that are out there, almost all of them,
Mm-hmm.
at a fully mature flower will end up somewhere in the range of 0.5 to 0.8, what's called quote unquote total THC, which there's a lot of arguments over whether total THC, quote unquote total THC, is what should be considered, or just Delta 9, because in order to get total THC, you need to denature all of your THCA into Delta 9 THC. And, most all the laws defining hemp primarily look at Delta 9 THC. There's no real mention of THCA, whatever. But with California law saying in order to be compliant, your test has to be under 0.3 total THC 30 days prior to harvest, most all of the varieties used for CBD production, or for grain production for that matter, will be compliant under that. And it's a weird, like.
Is that national? Is that a national law, or is it state by state?
It's state by state. And what's funny about it is that as hemp was legalized in different states, right? There was the national law which said hemp is under 0.3%, and then each state had different ways of modifying that or defining it, or basically creating sort of edge case exemptions, so that the facts on the ground of what all the varieties are and how they actually perform would be compliant.
Mm-hmm.
Because the 0.3% limit is a purely arbitrary number that someone pulled out of a hat 50 years ago. It's not really representative of anything, not even the true psychoactive potency of the plant. If that's because in theory, the reason we regulate THC levels is because, someone out there thinks because THC is psychoactive, it's a quote unquote potentially dangerous substance. I mean, it's all BS. We all know that.
Right.
But if that's what you're trying to regulate, then this 0.3 number doesn't actually do that. Like, you can determine, fairly safe to say, anything under 1% or even under 2% is not going to be very psychoactive. And
right.
Like, a true psychoactive effect could also be a result of ratios between THC and CBD, because these two compounds have counteracting effects in terms of triggering different receptors. Like if you're having an experience where you've had more THC than you're comfortable with, you're starting to feel a little anxiety, or some of the more negative side effects or unpleasant side effects of too much THC. If you ingest some CBD, it levels that out. And oddly enough, that's become the big interest and use case for smokable hemp. High CBD smokable hemp flower, like, kind of got like a shot chaser kind of relationship with high THC flower. But that's it's a little bit of a tangent.
Right. And so where are you now with the project? And tell the globe a little bit about the nature of what you're planning to do with the herd and how you do it. I mean, I know there's a lot of hand action, but you're combining, joining forces with the cotton gin, the cotton industry now.
So my expertise is primarily in the plants. The processing side, I'm not as knowledgeable.
Mm-hmm.
The folks who've done most of that work have been Tom Piers, and Mike McGuire from Western Fiber.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom Piers is also the manager of the West Island Cotton Growers Cooperative. They're a cooperative of cotton growers who own a couple of co-op cotton gins. They've been growing and ginning cotton up there for many years. I think Tom's been a manager there for about 30 years, 40 years, something like that.
Isn't it in his family? Doesn't his family own the the operation?
No, his family does not own the operation. It's a cooperative.
Okay.
But his family has been farming for some generations up there. You know, he's Portuguese, a lot of Portuguese farmers, family farmers in the Central
He
Valley.
was telling me that there was 200 million acres of cotton and they're down to 200.
I think the like at its peak there was probably close to 2 million acres of cotton in its heyday.
Right.
And now it's in the hundreds, couple hundred of thousands or so.
Right.
But their cooperative has 2 cotton gins, and one of those gins has not run since 2018, and the other gin last year ran at about a 30% capacity. So that gives you an indication of how much cotton acreage is down in the U.S. and also it's also an indication of like how much productive potential there is that's not being utilized. It's just crazy to think about when you go to farming regions and you see so much infrastructure that's mothballed. It really puts into perspective, like, you know, anyone who says there's not enough stuff is lying. You know, there's so much productive infrastructure in this country we don't even use anymore. It's insane.
Right.
But that said, that's part of the reason why they you know, Tom and Mike started tinkering with the gin, working on it, modifying it to process hemp. And one of the first things they actually were processing before they got their hands on hemp stocks was cotton stocks, because, you know, the cotton fiber that we all know is the fiber that's in the bowls, or the it's like the fruit of the plant, and then there's a seed in it. You got to remove the seed and you get the fiber there. But cotton as a plant itself also has a bast fiber similar to what hemp has. It's not nearly as strong or robust, but it's there, and it's just like a waste product. So they first experimented with that, and then they started working on running hemp through it, made some modifications, and they've been able to create a really interesting and viable raw fiber from hemp with the modifications they've done with the gin. Now, where they're at is seeing how that can be integrated in other supply chains, because, you know, after separating the fiber from the herd with the hemp plant, that's just the first step of probably a dozen different steps. I mean, you have to wet process the fiber to remove some of the excess lignins, and then card it and comb it, and then there's spinning fiber into yarns. And once you have a yarn, most of there's a significant existing supply chain elsewhere here in the West Coast.
Is that called decorticating? Is that called decorticating?
Yes, separating the fiber from the herd, you know, from a raw hemp stalk is decortication, or decorticating process. Yeah.
And is that by hand or by the machine?
They've been able to do it with the modified cotton gin.
Oh, great! So they actually are combining, doing a modification to accept the hemp plant.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not going to China and bringing in millions of dollars worth of new or already made decorticators.
So there's it's funny because what they've been able to achieve has kind of revealed to me that a lot of the talk around decorticators and stuff like that is it's different people selling equipment, you know, selling equipment or selling technology or whatever.
Right.
And there's a million different ways to skin a cat, you know. So these guys figured out, like, why don't we just use this existing infrastructure and make some modifications that cost somewhere in the realm of tens of thousands of dollars instead of investing millions of dollars to build an entirely new machine. That said, there are outfits in other parts of the country, like I know some guys in Montana who've invested money like that, a couple $1 million, to bring over a decorticator from France that they bought. It's called the La Roche line. It's one of the best decorticating systems in Europe, and, you know, they're building one. They're going to process like 20,000 acres or 40,000 acres, something like that, when they're done building. But there's a ton of different ways to approach this. But that said, it's also like just separating out the raw fiber there is the first step of many steps in a supply chain before you make a finished product. And
And
there are going to be other challenges building out the rest of that supply chain.
what are the first products that your company is that Hemp Traders and the Cotton Gin are producing?
So the Western Fiber as a company has done a lot of work in insulation over the years. They produce a lot of cellulosic insulation, and I don't want to speak too much for them because there's a lot of what they're doing that I don't know about, but
We lost our beautiful friend Tony there for a second on bandwidth, and we're actually looking.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You're back.
Okay.
For sure. Thank you. You were telling us about the products that you're. Can you hear me?
Receiving another call. There we go. I started receiving a call while.
Okay.
Yeah. I might have to run here in about 5 minutes. I'll just finish that thought. So, the main thing that Western Fiber is looking at is how to utilize the herds, and they're looking at different kinds of insulation products. I'd also like to shout out a friend of mine who you might have met there named Wade Atterbury, who's a hemp builder. He's been building with hemp for years now, and they're looking at like spray-in insulation, those types of applications, which is a really low-lying fruit, really easy to start making stuff with it. And then Hemp Traders is looking at taking the decorticated fiber further up the supply chain to make garments and fabrics and stuff. Which to start off with, it's just the challenge we have with making things domestically is so much of that supply chain isn't really here in the U.S. yet, unfortunately.
Right. So, all the fiber comes from China or Hungary, right?
Right. Yeah. And the Chinese they can't grow enough hemp fiber to make all the stuff they want. So the Chinese want to buy the fiber or import the fiber from us, and then make yarn or make fabric there.
Why can't they grow enough? Do they not have the space or the climate?
There's not enough arable land in China. It's just China import, in addition to like not having enough space to grow things like hemp, they don't have enough space to grow all the food they need. China is a net food importer. Yeah.
That's very interesting. So will we be able to ramp this up to get 1,000 acres?
I believe so, and I certainly hope so. Now there's a few things that have to happen in the coming months in terms of like samples being made, samples being shopped, and all of that. And I can't speak too much for Larry because really that's like what he's doing. But there seems to be a path there, and I think it could ramp pretty well.
Doesn't the gas fees to send something from one country to another make the product more expensive?
Certainly, but oddly enough, the cost to ship things to China from the West Coast are cheaper than to ship things from the West Coast to to like North Carolina or the Carolinas. Like the only other place I know of where the rest of this supply chain is being built out in any appreciable scale is in the Carolinas. That's where there's some like degumming and wet processing and spinning kind of tech. But it's just because of the cost of ocean freight versus the cost of trucking freight.
Right. So is there any fabric being made in America today yet?
In terms of like hemp fabrics?
Well, successful. I mean, if you can see my vest, is made.
As far as fabric that is completely where every step of the process is made in the U.S., I don't know of any. That said, there are operators like in the like LA area, for example, Los Angeles Apparel, which is the successor to the American Apparel,
right?
Where their input is thread. So they can, once you have something that's a thread or a yarn, they can take it, knit it into a fabric, and then take that fabric and create create clothes. That's one of the most vertically integrated producers of garments.
How close are
producing
we?
things in the
How
US
close
that I
are
know.
we in terms of years from being sustainable? I mean, being able to grow it and turn it into fabric in America.
I would say at least 5 years, based
Okay.
on what I know. There might be some folks I don't know of who are further along in developing, wet processing and spinning.
Mhm.
But that's my guess, my back of the napkin.
And what about the organic nature of keeping all the boll weevils and the stupid pesticide people off our plants? I mean, I know that cannabis is fairly, it protects itself, and it's a perfect plant almost. Let's get into that just for a second, then I'll let you go. Are we doing this as organically as possible?
That's the goal, and so much of the advantage of hemp is that it's pretty resistant, at least in its vegetative state, to many different pests. And because it's also very competitive with weeds, what I see as the role that hemp will have in farming is it will be another tool that can help farmers to clean up weedy fields, and that's the value that it'll have in the rotation. Is you would grow hemp every third or fourth year as a way to try and reclaim your field from some weed pressure, and that could over time reduce the amount of herbicides and stuff that people use. And in conjunction with other good farming practices like off-season cover crops and using tools like a roller crimper to terminate those cover crops, so you can also keep the overall level of weeds down and move towards a more regenerative, organic type of system. That's my thesis for.
And so for climate change, isn't the cannabis plant good for the air quality and for the soil to replenish the soil?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, Jeff, I have to jump here. I'm sorry that I
That's
didn't
okay.
have as much.
You're a wealth of information. Everybody, we have Tony DeVera on today. We'll have him back, and I hope Milan comes on for sure. I have a different Milan on right now.
My schedule, for the most part, I'm more free after 4 p.m. most days.
Okay.
So maybe perhaps we could reconvene one day, like after 4 p.m. I know that you've got a live show here, so
we can reconvene, and we can also record. We can record our talks, and I can play them, because it's the same. When I'm going live, I can just say, hey, I talked to Tony and we had this excellent conversation. Let's pick it up further. Let's see what you're doing. I know you want to get some media from me. Let's keep working together. Thank you so much for all you do. Hemp hooray. And I have my little Dr. Demento. My little Dr. Demento. And see you later, Tony. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Take care.
Okay, talk to you later. Bye-bye. So everybody, that was Tony DeVera down in California doing an incredible industrial hemp grow there, and we showed on our opening trailer the drone shot that I took of the hemp fields. There was 3 acres of fields, and they were billowing in the wind, and there was about, gosh, I think they've gotten them up to 24, 25 feet. And they've got the Guinness World Book of Records. It's really phenomenal. And so I'm really blessed to have Tony on today and to describe and to share with us the nature of what it takes to be legal in the industrial world. They're trying to make fabric, and they're actually doing 4x8 sheets of wood, press boards, and all that in the industry. And so we're on Weeds Day today, everybody. We're rolling right along here. It's been really a blessed day. I even made a video for the French Dog Pound. We're trying to produce a concert on 420, a golf tournament to raise the money for our social equity fund for the prisoners We're going to be working with my co-host JJ. She's been on the last couple of weeks in a row. We had Tommy Chong on last week, and we're gonna not stop, everybody, because we have to, we have to produce the awareness that it's a beautiful plant, just like my hat and my vest. That's organic, and cotton is not organic. Even the organic cotton, I don't know, but we love organic cotton. We love organic hemp. But I want to invite Milan in for a brief moment and to have him say his how do you do's. And Milan, welcome. How are you? Can you unmute and say hi?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very good. It's really nice to have you in the space and everything. What is your slice of the 420 pie? How do you resonate with this as a paper, fiber, fuel, medicine, or food, and now plastic and wood? We're making fiberboard, and hempcrete.
I guess I resonated because I'm obviously a user, so I like cannabis from that standpoint. But then I also, I'm a man of technology, so I look at ways that it can be grown, and we've built grow boxes, so we actually use these shipping containers that we convert into these grow farms that you can actually grow cannabis, and any type of strain that you want to do inside of a 40, 24, or 10-foot container. You also can build a modular for your container, and as well as make it automated and robotic, right? By using these robots to grow your produce or your crops for you at any remote location, and it's completely off the grid. So, I'm looking to bring a lot of innovation to the space so people can actually have this cannabis business and also their crop business and grow it out to what
you're saying. Old shipping containers, you can grow, you can put lights in old
yeah. So you can go, there's a lot of different examples. There's about like 20 different top manufacturers that do this. Freight Farm is one of the top companies that people know.
Okay.
There's also Box for Grow, which is our partner. And, we actually build these automated boxes with them.
Freeform.
Say it again.
You said Freeform and Box for Grow?
No, Freight Farm. So like freight, like you have a freight, and then like a shipping freight, or you also have Box for Grow is the other company. So boxforgrow.com and then freightfarm.com.
Freightfarm.com. Oh man, I'm so excited to have them, because when we do our 420 concert, and we haven't dropped it or released it yet, but when we do that, we're going to have we're going to be having sponsors and people we'll have a vendors area and information area, and we'll have booths and talks all day long. If we could get, we're thinking about Oakland. If we can get the stadium for 2 days, we'll have lectures, we'll have information, and maybe we'll have a box there. We'll just drive a box in and show everybody what it is. I want to have a documentary set around it. And I know we were talking about doing a virtual concert. I'm so excited. You got me so jazzed on that. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I would love to talk to them. Maybe Box for Grow would be interested in being a sponsor, or at least being involved in some way in that event.
Without a doubt, yeah, we're just in the early stages, and my co-producer JJ will definitely catch up with you. I mean, a lot's happening in the next several weeks, and months and everything. They're doing social equity for cancer, and we've got NFT New York. We've got we've got the Basel and all that stuff. But I want to focus on WEEDSDAY. I want to focus on ending prohibition and bringing our prisoners home and doing a trust fund through a drop, man. And I talked to somebody just like this morning or yesterday. They wanted to do 10,000 weed shots with me as a drop, and I don't know how to get that many photographs, but I'm open to how we can, take that one photograph and do one photograph 100 times with different backgrounds and different 3D aspects, and then drop them, because I know the nature of the NFT blockchain world has produced a lot of funding for Afghanistan, and now for cancer and other things. And I think we're not going to slow down here. And so if we do a weed one, I want to give it to my prisoners. I want to do a social equity for the prisoners, and so they can come out and feel, righteous and taken care of, that we pay them back for all the time they missed.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. Even when you mentioned to me yesterday, like I said, I'm definitely down to help provide avatars or provide a crowd to make the event more fruitful, and definitely bring some traffic to it.
That sounds great. What would be cool is you didn't see my intro, but I'm going to play it at the end here in about 10 minutes. But there's a drone shot that I did of the 30-foot fields in California. Totally unbelievable, totally beautiful, and maybe we could have a virtual farm.
Yeah, we actually are doing that. So we're doing a virtual farm out of grow boxes where you'll be able to learn how to have your own business. So you can have like a tutorial on how these grow boxes work, and then eventually either have one physically, or you can use that virtual one to control a physical box through simulation, which is probably a later conversation, but I'm happy to go in details if you want.
Well, that's very interesting. That's almost quantum for me, because I remember my dad was using what did they call that machine? A pantograph machine. He was making coins, and he would carve out of lucite from the bottom up with the Dremel tool, a picture of an eagle or a Greek god or something like that. And then he would do that fairly small, or like 4 or 5 inches. But he had this pantograph machine that would go in there with a stylus, and it would go up and down and up and down and go all around. But it had an arm that would make a smaller coin of exactly what he had carved.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's called the pantograph machine. That's old school, but that's what my dad over my shoulder. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Here's my dad. This is my papa here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so he was he was super cool inventor. I'm that myself, and I'm really looking forward to working with you, Milan. Did you get my profile yesterday?
You sent it?
Yeah, I sent it already. Yeah.
Where?
I uploaded it on the site that you gave me.
Did you? I didn't see it.
It said choose, and I uploaded it, and here, let's see here. I'll show you here. I can do it again, but it's right. Let's see.
Did you check out?
Oh, I didn't check out because I didn't have the code.
Oh, I sent you the code on Clubhouse.
Oh, okay. So let's see here. We'll go. Hey, everybody, we're at Weeds Day, and we're talking to Milan, and we're doing some 3D space work here. We're doing some virtual stuff that's going to be beautiful for the cannabis industry, for the virtual industry, for the NFT industry, and behind the scenes, we'll get it. Don't worry, Milan. I really appreciate you. So how is your knowledge of prisoners in jail for pot? Do you know anybody, or have you ever been inside yourself?
No, thankfully not. Yeah, I don't agree that it's still a problem that they're even still there, right? Especially when you're looking at all the legalization that's going on. It's definitely kind of unfair that they've been in jail all this time, and some are probably still in jail, which is crazy. Especially as you said yesterday, for a plant, right? It's not like this thing that really kills people or does any harm to anybody. So to actually jail somebody for such a calming plant or a meditative plant is kind of insane. And definitely when you look at the medicinal properties of these plants, it's almost like it's by design that they put these people in jail because they knew that it would hurt other industries. So it's unfortunate.
And of course, the hypocrisy is that it's not that the weed stores are making money now, but it's legal in 33 states, and we're not retroactiving our prisoners to come home without, without having the ability to get a house or an apartment because they're still got the law on their side. They're still, affected by them being in jail, and so we want them full commuted. We want to get to the White House. We want to end prohibition. And through all the little behind the scenes things that we're doing, I'm going to focus on this event that we're doing and have you involved, get JJ over to you, and we'll do some behind the scenes stuff. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah. Well, everybody, we're rolling down here. Any final words to our global community about taking responsibility for just, looking forward to the day that we have, freed the plant?
Yeah, for me?
Yeah. Any fun? Yeah, we're the only two here.
Yeah, final thoughts. I would just hope that that we finally federally legalize it. I think it's about time. It's been stalled for years, and I don't really understand why. I live in New York, so we just got the legalization, which is a big step for New York. But I'm very looking forward to the whole United States to be legal, so then it could really be a solid industry for people that are involved today.
Yeah, and alcohol is the antithesis. It's like the opposite. It makes you angry and nervous and messes with your body style. If you're not, moderation and everything is fine, but alcohol's legal and cannabis is not. It doesn't compute still. Every day I wake up wanting to right the wrong. And so it's a pleasure to have you on board, and you're welcome to stick around. I'm going to play our outro, and you can see the fields if you want. I'm going to share our screen, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the MORAC. But it's been great to hang with you, Milan. I can't wait to have you in a bigger room, and we'll start to network.
Sounds good.
Okay,
yeah, I'll stick around and then I'll head out.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen now, everybody. And I am going to share my QuickTime here and go back here. Here we go. I made this today. Good afternoon, everybody. As some of you know, I'm Jeff Eichen from Lifers Madness, the movie, with Tommy Chong. We are beginning our first stages of organizing the very first World 420 Day on Weeds Day, every fourth Weeds Day. Don't forget, hemp, hemp, hooray. So the gentleman on before you was Tony, and he grew this field, and I was there with my drone. Isn't that a beauty? So everybody, it's actually episode 72. We're really blessed. I'm your host, Jeff Eichen,
human rights
to
advocate,
be
and
in
social
your
activist
house
fighting
today.
for government deregulation of weed and the release of all nonviolent criminals incarcerated for possession of marijuana, moving violations, parking tickets, IRS debt, etc. Here on Weeds Day, we keep the public informed about all things weed related, including festivals and legislation surrounding regulating the growth of hemp.
Talking about a war on drugs that was basically a war on humanity. And what it did basically is it took human beings that could have been productive, and it threw them into prisons basically all over the country. California being the worst example of this for nonviolent drug-related offenses, and just wasted human beings, and at astronomical cost to states around the country. I think that the Oregon law, that they just passed, is absolutely brilliant in the sense that they're capitalizing right now on the massive tax revenue from their organic and potent weed sales that comes out of Oregon. They sell it all over the world. They sell it all around the United States. And they have such a massive surplus right now, despite the recession, that they're able to fund not only drug rehab programs, they're able to provide housing for the homeless, construction builds, and to provide job training. So it's a long time coming that drugs, nonviolent drug offenses, are no longer going to tie up the criminal justice system and let human beings rot away when, drug rehab and more humanitarian ways of dealing with the problem is the way to go.
Might this be a model for the rest of the nation?
100%. It will be a model for the rest of the nation. I mean, it's going to be slow in some of the states where they toss your life away for, any drug-related offense. But I think it's the beginning of a trend that's going to sweep across the country eventually.
Hey, everybody, we're all the way up to episode 72. That's just freaking amazing. But I have promised you today that I would give us a little bit of information on the MORE Act. So let me read to you what the MORE Act is. It says here, the act would remove cannabis from the Controlled Substance Act, facilitate the expungement of past convictions, yay, and tax cannabis products 5% to fund criminal and social reform projects. That's exactly what we're planning to do. We want to gift these prisoners from our proceeds to our NFT project and the money we're going to raise for them. We love you. We want you home. And the ones that are home, just sit back and come on and join us. We'll bring you out. And it says it would prohibit the denial of any federal public benefits like housing on the basis of cannabis use, and states that use or possession of marijuana would have no adverse impact under immigration laws. So it doesn't matter if you've been in jail for weed, for cannabis, you can get an apartment. Your record will not be, they won't allow the MORE Act to get in your way anymore, to get a phone or a license or a driver, however that is. So according to the trust funds, the act would create and include a community reinvestment grant, which would provide funding for services such as job training, re-entry services, and legal aid. The Cannabis Opportunity Grant would provide funds to assist small businesses in the pot industry, and the Equitable Licensing Grant, which minimizes barriers to gain access to cannabis licensing and employment for those most impacted by the so-called war on drugs, or war on people, as I would say, or some people would say. And states would maintain their own laws regarding the substance, and including whether to legalize it locally. So that's kind of what the act was, and is. And I think it's in the House now, or maybe it did pass the House and it's going to go to the Senate. Wherever it is, we want the MORE Act, Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act. That's it, the MORE Act. So like Tommy Chong says, maybe it's the CORE Act, because we're changing the word marijuana to cannabis, and not like the AB 45 in California. But it's been really my pleasure, everybody, today to be with you. This is Jeff Eichen with Weeds Day. Remember, 321, that's our peace sign for weed, and that's peace, and that's F Schedule 1. I mean it. So have a great day, everybody. Remember, Mickey is on my desktop at 420 all the time. So be aware, be responsible, and you can support us at lifersthemovie.com/donate. So hemp hooray, everybody. And I'll give you my Dr. Demento whistle here. Here we go. And I'm out for the day. Thank you. See you next week. Hemp hooray. And for StreamYard, thank you so much. And we've had a great show today, everybody. At StreamYard, we're blessed to be on StreamYard and with the International Broadcast Media. And that's all we have for you today. Hemp hooray.